with me as we work through Lab 3, Sheet 3. In your Lab 3 submissions folder, go ahead and open up Lab 3, Sheet 3 title block. And first things first, we are going to select the block, right-click block editor, and go ahead and change your lab and sheet to Lab 3, Sheet 3, and close the block editor. Pop over into model space over here. And first things first, we can draw this. Let's just take a look at the page here. So I'm only going to show you the top view and the front view, and then you will have to go ahead and create the right view. So let's go ahead and get started. In this case, you can draw this just like most things. You can draw it a number of different ways. For this top view, am going to rely heavily on rectangles and trim. And on this front view right here, so that's for the top view. For the front view right here, I'm going to rely mostly on offsets. So two kind of unique ways to draw these things, but it's giving us some extra practice with some of those tools. On this one right here, we're also going to introduce the stretch command, which is a super powerful tool, something that we haven't used yet so far in class. But I will say, if you ever come to any of my live drafting stuff that I do, you will see me using the stretch tool all the time. It's one of the most commonly used tools. And I would say I likely use the stretch tool more than almost any other tool other than maybe lines or rectangles. And let's go ahead and get started here. So first things first, let's just turn on the grid snap just for a second here, just so that we can grab our rectangle tool, or again, you can type REC enter. And I'm going to go ahead and start, I don't know, maybe 2 inches in and 1.5 inches down from the top of the page. We may move this later. We kind of want our view to be centered in the page as well as possible. So I may end up moving this over as we go along. So D enter for dimensions. And this is going to be 1.5 inches wide and 1.6 inches tall, just like that. Go ahead and click in the lower right quadrant, just like that. And the next thing we're going to do is another rectangle, REC enter. And actually, before we click anything here, I'm going to just turn off my grid snap. So I'm just going to go click there. So I am still in my rectangle tool, but in case that's a little confusing, because I did click down here first, I'm just going to click escape, REC enter to grab that tool again. And I'm going to start at the bottom left corner of our rectangle. Click just like that. And our next rectangle is going to be D enter, and it's going to be 1.3 enter by 1.6, just like that. And we have one more rectangle to create. So REC enter, bottom left corner, just like this. And we're going to say D for dimensions. And this is going to be 1.5 enter, 0.3 enter. Just like that. So that's 1.5 inches wide by 0.3 inches tall. And now we're going to use the trim tool, TR enter. And go ahead and trim out these two lines here and this line right there. And now we can go ahead and explode all of our rectangles. So highlight everything and type X enter. Now click on this left-hand line right here, and we're going to go ahead and offset that. So highlight that. You can click the offset tool right here. Alternatively, you can type O enter, 0.5 enter, and we're going to offset that 0.5 to the right. So click once, and then we are going to offset again. I'm sorry, we're going to offset this line right here, O enter. We're going to offset that by 0.3 enter. And we're offsetting that to the right again, just like that. And from here, we can see in our drawing, if I drag it over, that we have some hidden lines here. So we have hidden lines ending in some continuous lines here. So what we're going to do here, because what we're seeing is from the top view, we're seeing this pillar right here. But this is hidden by, you wouldn't be able to see this if you were just looking straight down on these items. We're just showing that information graphically. We have some hidden lines there. That means there is something underneath. So in order to make that happen, let's go ahead and use the stretch command. So I'm going to just introduce this for the first time right now. So what I want you to do is do a left drag selection tool starting right here. So click once, pull up to the left. It has to be a left drag rectangle. It does not work for the right drag rectangle. We're going to click once to end it, and then hold shift and just deselect this top line. So I just held shift and I did a left drag just to deselect that top line there. Now we're going to type S enter for stretch. Alternatively, you can click this button right here, and we can see the preview says stretches objects crossed by a selection window or polygon. So that's what we just did when we selected using the left drag rectangle. And this actually gives some additional good information. So let's let that pop up again. So objects that are partially enclosed by a crossing window. So they're calling that left drag selection tool a crossing window are stretched. Objects that are completely enclosed with a crossing window or that are selected individually are moved rather than stretched. So I will show you an example of that in just a moment. But now let's just redo what we just did. So click here, left drag selection, then deselect the top line. We're going to type S enter for stretch. And now select, you could select anywhere on this top line, but use somewhere on this top line as a base point. I'm just going to select right here, this midpoint, and then go straight down. And we can see if I move this all over, we can see I'm kind of stretching, I'm manipulating both of these lines at the same time. I can manipulate them all over the place. I'm just going to come straight down and snap to perpendicular to this lower line here, just like that. Now I'm going to draw two lines starting at the end point of those continuous lines that we just stretched down, just like that. And we're going to make these hidden. However, we have to load in our hidden line again. So I'm going to go other and load, grab our hidden line. Okay, so now we just got to grab those two lines, go into our line type selection, drop down and click hidden to, just like that. And there we have it. So let me just give you, before we move on to this front view here, let me just give you a little bit of a better idea of what we're doing with the stretch tool. So I've got a rectangle here and I've got a circle somewhere inside this rectangle, just like that. And then let's say we also have a line, right? So this rectangle here is three and a half inches long right now. And I can prove that with my dimension right there. So we want this rectangle to be 2.5 inches long. Or let's say 2 inches. So we have to reduce the length of this rectangle by 2.5 inches. But we like where this circle is placed. We want this circle to stay 0.7 inches from this side of the rectangle here. But we're reducing this to 2 inches. What we can do to do that the fastest way possible would be to use the stretch command. So if I use a left drag selection or a left drag crossing window, as they call it, I am going to want to completely enclose the circle. AutoCAD is keeping track of where it is that your selection rectangle is actually cutting through this part. So as long as anywhere in here, essentially is the same. It doesn't really matter. But as soon as you come across this line, if you stretch, when you come across that line, you're going to start stretching that line just like that. If you don't enclose the line, then you will not manipulate the line. And if you stretch on this side of the circle, on the right side of the circle, now we're manipulating that dimension that we don't want to change at all. So that's what I mean by AutoCAD is keeping track of where it is that you are crossing through different items with your selection tool. And it's keeping track of that even when you're not going to use the stretch command. That's just something that AutoCAD tracks inside the software. So let's just open this up again here and just look at what the stretch command is telling us again, what this preview is telling us. So objects that are partially enclosed by the crossing window are stretched. So we just saw that when the line is partially enclosed or when the rectangle is partially enclosed where that selection tool is crossing over it, objects that are completely enclosed within the crossing window or that are selected individually are moved rather than stretched, just like the circle. So we can see that we are completely enclosing that circle, S enter to stretch, and we're moving the circle while we are stretching the rectangle. However, we come in here like this, we can see nothing's going to happen to the rectangle because it's just because we're moving this laterally this direction and it's not going to change this line at all. But what will happen is this line here will be stretched. So it's a very powerful tool. Circles will not stretch. Ellipses will not stretch, as we can see here. So that being said, if I want to make this rectangle 2.5 inches long, or I'm sorry, 2 inches long and keep that circle at 0.7 from the right side, I'm going to go ahead and stretch just like this. Stretch it at 1.5. And now we have a 2-inch rectangle, 0.7. The circle is 0.7 inches from the side. And there we have it. And now let's go ahead and work on our front view. So right here, I am going to make a rectangle. Maybe kind of like almost 1.5 inches away here. Doesn't really matter. Turn off my grid snap after I place the first point of my rectangle. And I'm going to make that D for dimension. And then I'm going to say 1.5, enter, 1.5, enter. Just like that, and place it. Now I'm going to explode this. So highlight it, X, enter for explode. And we're just going to go ahead and do a series of offsets here. So type O, enter, 0.3, enter. And we're going to offset the bottom line towards the inside, the top line towards the inside, both at 0.3. Click escape, O, enter for offset, and 0.5, enter. And we're going to do the same thing, offset the top one down by 0.5 and the bottom one up by 0.5. While we have our 0.5 tool or 0.5 offset active, we go ahead and click this left vertical line and offset that 0.5 towards the inside. And then we're going to O, enter to offset, 0.3, enter, and we're going to offset this line by 0.3. And what we're lining that up with, you can see my cursor, it's lined up perfectly with the hidden line pillar that we drew up above. So that's what we're lining up there. And from here, we are going to go ahead and TR, enter for trim tool and just trim off anything that we don't need at this time. So just like that, trim off these guys, trim off these. Looks like this, just like that, and just keep going. And all I'm doing here is I am looking on my other screen at the drawing, the assignment to get this information. You can see right here, all I'm doing is following, looking at these dimensions and trimming off where I don't need. So I just offset, 0.3, 0.5, 0.3, 0.5, 0.5, 0.3, and then we just trim everything we don't need. Now we still have another line we did not offset before. So let's take this bottom line right here. O enter, 0.7 enter, offset it up by 0.7, and go ahead and trim either side just like that. And we've got one more line that we have to offset. And we didn't do it before because this way we don't have to trim. We're going to offset this, O enter, 0.2 enter, just like that. And this needs to be a dashed line, so we can click on it and change it up here to hidden. Alternatively, you can go ahead and match attributes. So we can highlight one of these dashed lines. If you highlight both of them, it doesn't work. So you have to highlight only one. Highlight one and then type MA enter for match attributes or match properties, and go ahead and click once on that line, that vertical line. And we are almost done with our front view here. So last but not least, we're going to use the stretch command again. We can see here, if I take a vertical construction line, to get that, you could use the draw toolbar or the draw menu here and grab your construction line. I got that so quickly by typing XL enter V enter. And you can place a line on that little hidden line there, or you could place a line up here where it lines up. And we can see this little guy right here, this excess needs to be stretched 0.2 inches to meet up with this line here. And so to do that, there's two ways to do it. One, create construction geometry like we just did. Do a left drag selection window or crossing window, S enter, and then select the base point. I usually do the midpoint or one of these endpoints here, and go ahead and come straight across until it snaps perpendicular and click the left click once. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is if you know that you're stretching this 0.2 inches to the left, all you have to do is do a left drag crossing window, left drag selection tool, S enter, pick some arbitrary base point, doesn't matter, anywhere. Come over to the left a certain amount, doesn't matter, it can be way over here. Just type 0.2 enter. And now all we did was move that 0.2. So it doesn't really matter when you have this, when you have your selector, your stretch tool active, if you come up this direction and type 0.2, it's not going to work. It's going to skew it all weird. But as long as you are in line with the 0 and 180 degree movement, it's just going to stretch it whichever direction you're pulling. So if I come this direction and type 0.2, it's going to stretch it 0.2 to the right. If I come this direction, type 0.2, it's going to stretch 2.2 to the left. And with that, we have our top view and our front view. And all we have to do now is get the right view. So again, I am not going to show you drawing the right view. What I will do, however, is quickly show you how to set up the construction lines for your projection. So to do that, I'm going to change my color to yellow just so it's a little easier to see what I'm doing. And I'm going to type XL enter for a construction line, A enter for angle, 45 enter for 45. And I'm going to go ahead and place this right here. This looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and place that right there. Again, it really doesn't matter where you place it. I'm kind of making that judgment based on where I think it's going to land when it projects across this line. So if we think of this projection, oops. So the left side of this view is going to line up right there, and that looks pretty good to me in terms of overall page spacing. So that's how I made that decision. Now from here, let's just go ahead and make our projection lines. I'm going to use raise, R-A-Y, enter, and just go ahead and make our projections from all of our important corners and faces up here. That I'm going to trim off what I don't need here. Trim off, always clean up your drawing. Just like that. If you don't use this type of select or trim where you like use a cutting tool, basically, or it's called a cutting tool. So you select a line, TR, enter, and then go through and just trim. It'll trim up into that line. If you don't do it that way, you know, you have to trim there, and you still have this like infinite line up here, so you have to trim again. So that's why I'm always using that, I guess, quote, more advanced trim tool, just to save some time. Same thing over here. We're going to create horizontal arrays. And in this time, I'm just going to copy these around. I think it's a little faster. Just like that. And we are going to trim off what we don't need here. Great. And let me just check paper space here. So it does look like it's a little bit, it does look like it's a little bit, you know, to the left here on the page. I want to kind of center it a little bit better. So I'm actually going to move this half an inch to the right and half an inch down. So let's just go ahead and do that. So select everything, move it 0.5 inches to the right, 0.5 inches down. So here it doesn't look really centered. However, when we have the little title block here, that weights this side of the page a little bit more, and this should look pretty good. Yeah, there we go. I think that looks pretty good. Actually, if you really want to, you can move it back up a little bit because it does look a little bit low at this point. You can move it up 1/4 of an inch. Again, this isn't, you know, the end of the world kind of stuff, but it just, when you're creating drawings, you want to have a spatial awareness or a spatial acuity about how you're organizing everything on the page. Think about if you have an instruction packet of a piece of furniture that you bought, and everything is like really, you know, say you bought an instruction packet and everything is like way up here in the corner. It'd be strange, right? You'd be like, why isn't it like it? You should fill the space a little bit better. That's something that people will notice, regardless of whether they're engineers or just the end consumer. So go ahead and try to position things, you know, pretty centered on the page. Don't have overlapping dimensions, that kind of stuff. That's just good overall drafting standards. From here, I'm going to let you go ahead and figure out where all of these lines are. If you look at your assignment page, there is a hint in the course folder. Obviously, you have the total solution. However, it's going to be a little bit different because we changed that dimension up here. However, just to pull up that hint, which is usually all you get for this lab. So we've drawn the front view. We can see that little line right there, right? If we look at our front view, you can see here is the line that we could see right here when you're looking at that view. And right here, our hidden line is this little bump out. So when you're looking at it from this view, you're not seeing this little bump back in. So we're just showing that there's something there. So yes, it does get cut and it bumps back in right there. And then in your top view, so we're seeing this. So we are seeing this little block come up. We see that right there. However, we don't see the rest of this pillar. So that's what these hidden lines are. Anyway, so now you are going to be creating a right view. So this line here that comes back, like that'll be a hidden line. This line here that comes back, that'll be a hidden line. So, you know, if you think about that, so like, you know, this is 0.5 up, this is 0.3 up right here. So at 0.3 up, there's going to be a hidden line. At 0.5 down, there's going to be a hidden line. So that's the kind of stuff that you have to think about. And you're going to see there's going to be 2 vertical lines right here. So that's the kind of stuff you should keep in mind when you're creating these views. and when you're looking at this isometric drawing that I created in SolidWorks of the part, of our two-dimensional part, Lab 3 Sheet 3. Last thing, I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to speed it up a little bit here and throw the dimensions on, just the way that I would like to see them on your drawing. Other than that, have at it and go, good luck on the right view here. There we go. That is how I would like to see your dimensions on this drawing. And if I go ahead and delete that, you can see, so that's how I'd like to see your dimensions, and you will have your right view. And go ahead and throw, maybe a couple overall dimensions on that as well. Once you have your right view drawn and overall dimensions placed, go ahead and plot that. You go ahead, if you have these construction lines, get rid of these construction lines before you plot, but go ahead and plot just like normal. We've been through it a number of times already, so I'm not going to go through that with you now, but plot it per normal and go ahead and submit the PDF to the Lab 3 Dropbox. And I will see everyone next week.